All right, what's up, everybody? This is the monthly leadership message with Brian Hale, going on our second year now. What's up, Mr. Brian Hale?
A lot. There's a lot going on, man. It's
I can't wait to
was traveling
unpack it.
this week. I had a chance to present at the Housing Wire inaugural economic summit in Dallas at the George Bush Library. That was exciting. I got a lot of stuff going on with clients. I added a couple of new clients while I was there, and so lots is happening. Obviously, a lot's happening in the markets and the business in general, and difficult times.
Yeah,
Still
no, I'm
battle.
looking.
That was my
You're
takeaway out of the economic summit. It was a battle, but I'll give you more detail if you want. So,
Yeah, well, I'm going to want more detail. You actually came up in today's Friday mastermind that we do every Friday. Deborah Bird was on it, and when I asked her, "Hey, give me some highlights," she quoted you. She had about 5 minutes, and she quoted you two or three times. So you clearly had an impact.
she was
Uh,
at the summit.
she was at the summit and
Yeah, okay. Actually,
taking
Clayton
notes.
Collins from Housing Wire reached out to me, and he claims that I was the third speaker. It wasn't just me. It was Ryan McKeveny from Zellman Associates that works with Ivy Zellman. It was him and I doing a little Jack and Jill presentation on stage, but that I was the most often called out or quoted person by all the rest of the speakers through the course of the day. So I
Well,
wasn't in every session, but I sat in most of them, and then I got a chance to record a podcast with Sarah Wheeler as well. That's up today, and so
well, it's a gift to this community to have you. For anyone that doesn't know who Brian Hale is, he's been one of the top CEOs in the mortgage space. Once upon a time, he was the head of production for Countrywide, the largest loan officer sales force really in the history of the industry. And today he mentors, coaches, executive teams, is involved in a lot of M&A transactions. And whether they actually happen or they just, you know, um, fizzle out. Brian's involved. He's in the mix. Which, by the way, that is going to be one of my questions. Brian, is are we going to see a increase in M&A transactions? But before we get to that, I always like to just like, hey, there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of data, and again, I don't think there's ever been a month where we've had more data and we've had more change in America. And so, as it pertains to housing, as it pertains to a mortgage loan officer, as it pertains to an executive, what's the signal? Like, what are the things that matter most right now in March? And by the way, for the live audience, we are on the last day of February, but for the YouTube audience, you're going to get this hot off the shelf, beginning of March. What matters most, Brian?
well, it's always the case. They always have a hard time narrowing it down to one thing. But one of the things I did yesterday or 2 days ago at the summit, there were two economic speakers ahead of me, Logan from Housing Wire, and then Mike Simonson from Altos, covering a lot of data. And then I had Ryan McKeveny from Zellman on with me as well, and he put together great kind of industry perspective on data and what's happening and those kinds of things. One of the comments I made, I may have stole the line from either you or somebody I think I heard it from, which is that when you think about a $2 trillion mortgage origination market for 25, which is on a lot of people's forecast, my point was that it's not your father's $2 trillion mortgage volume. What I mean by that is, and I had a slide in this morning's weekly roadmap that I put up, I could put it up again for your audience if you want, is that because loan averages, the average loan size in America since 2019, January of 2019 till like last week, has increased 44% to $398,000 is now the new mortgage loan average last month, right? And so if you had a $2 trillion market in 2019 and you have a $2 trillion market origination market in 2025, it's about 44% fewer units to do the same 2 trillion this year that you did on the 2 trillion in 2019. So I think you got to be very careful for forecasters, for originators, thinking about opportunity today. I have this great chart that Tracy Lewis on my team put together that kind of shows unit volume by quarter. and it is, the arrow is going like this, right? And I think when we get the data for Q1 of 25, it's going to be even lower, right, through the process. So I think the signal is something we talked about, I think, on the last session. 25 is not going to be an easy year, certainly not going to be the easy year that people that back in July, August, September were hoping for before the Fed made its first move and we lost 100 basis points in rate, right? Now, clearly over the last week and certainly the last 2 weeks, we've gotten some of that back. We've gotten about 30, 35 basis points of the rate move back, meaning improvement. We're back under 7. We're in the high 6s. Spreads that we've talked about in the past, mortgage spreads between 10-year Treasury and 30-year fixed mortgages have narrowed from their historic highs. They're still very high. They're still well north of the range of normality. So I think the signal is continued challenge in the market around opportunity. But I had Stu Stewart from Place on the weekly roadmap this morning, and he's maybe in the best catbird seat in the industry to kind of get a sense what's going on. His store sales, same store sales year over year, up something like 14 or 17% in volume. Overall up 28% because they've added teams. But what it's emblematic of is that the market in the real estate side is consolidating to the top agents. They're getting more and more of the share. And so, I think from the very first time you and I ever recorded one of these, we talked about data, using data, using research to figure out who's actually selling real estate. And if you're calling on a segment of the real estate population that is losing share or has no share or has minimal share, then your opportunity in the mortgage space is diminished as well. And so I'm back to the same question. I voiced it at the Housing Wire Economic Summit as one of my 5 bullet points of what to do now. One is stop worrying about what the Fed's going to do. The Fed's going to do what the Fed's going to do. Do we have a CFPB or we don't have a CFPB? I don't know. The administration will sort that out. There's 5 things in my view you should go do and be focused on tomorrow. If you're running a mortgage company, that's what I focused on. And one of those was, do you know who your real estate or who your sales force is calling on? And more importantly, do you know why they're calling on them, right? So signal is continued difficult market, shrinking opportunity on the purchase side. Maybe we get a little bounce in some refi volume, debt consolidation volume, home improvement refi volume, not enough to cure the ills of the industry. And who you're calling on and who you're pursuing and using data to be targeted, because you can't waste effort or money or time in this market. Everything is consolidating. I think the best originators in the industry are getting more share. I think the best realtors are getting more share. That to me is the signal of, I said it on stage and I know I'm unpopular when I say this. If I was running a big mortgage company today, I'd have fewer middle managers because that's not clear to me what they all do for a living. And secondly, I'd have a lot more financial analysts doing that kind of data analysis and helping my sales force target and know exactly where, who, and how to target more so than somebody telling me what the salespeople are doing, because I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah. So this one validates. By the way, I would love to see that slide at some point. So if you want to get it ready to pull up, and when I come back to you in a minute here, would love to just get a glance for
I do.
visual representation.
I have it ready to go. Yeah.
Oh, well then show it real quick, and then I have a few notes to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, let me get to it here really quickly.
Oh, you told me you had it ready to go.
I'm sorry, man.
You're backpedaling now?
No, I got you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I got you, brother. Let me just get to slideshow so people can see it. Slideshow, and then I'm gonna spin some slides really quickly. So forgive the making people dizzy. Let me just get to that slide really quickly. This is just the deck from this morning's weekly roadmap.
And remember, guys, if you have not signed up to get it, it's free, and we'll put a link down below to it.
Thanks, Dave.
So if you're watching this on
Here's the
YouTube,
slide.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
let me orientate you. Let me orientate you to the slide really quickly. It's a 6-year national purchase mortgage opportunity trend slide. So the orange bars are the unit number of purchase mortgage transactions by quarter through the fourth quarter of 24. And you can see the big red arrow. The trend is not our friend in this case, right? Trend is going down. Overlaid across it is the loan average on the right-hand axis. And Q4 of 24 versus Q1 of 19. So the loan average has gone up from a $286,000 loan average in Q1 of 19 to a loan average of $398,000. And I think that's driven by a couple things. One, first-time home buyers are having a more and more difficult time. So second and third-time move-up buyers, which tend to be less economically sensitive, are buying up, and property values we know are up. So if you just held the loan to value constant, you would know that the loan average was going up. So it's up 44% since Q1 of 19. And my point to this slide, and you can see each year on the right-hand side, the point to this slide is that quarterly volume, and I don't know this, but I would bet you that Q1 of 25 will be below the 626,000 volume, and that's opportunity in the mortgage space. Purchase mortgage opportunity in the mortgage space is correlated to the number of purchase transactions.
I'm so glad you showed that. If you could pull that down real quick.
Yep. Well,
So, a mutual friend of ours, someone that you had on your show recently, Jeremy Forcier, I had this Tuesday as my guest. I'm going to put a link to that interview down below. And a couple things came out of that conversation. First of all, Jeremy's doing a whole lot better this year than he did last year. He's had 2 straight months of 8 million in production. And when I asked him, because he leads a region with 50 plus loan officers, plus he's a coach for the core. So he's got a really good perspective of a lot of different loan officers. I go, so you're doing a lot better than last year at this time. What about other loan officers? He's like, yeah, not so much.
not so
So,
much.
so he validated that he's winning and the best are winning, many aren't. And then when I asked him, I can't remember how I asked the question, but here's what came out of the conversation is that over 50% of the loans that he had going of purchase business were first time sellers. And so guys, there's riches and niches. And we went through a sequence of a conversation where he said, think about it. The first time sellers, they bought their home over the past 3 to 7 years. What's happened over the past 3 to 7 years? Equity has exploded.
Yes.
They've had an incredible return on investment. Like when you look at their down payment, they've had an incredible return on investment. And he is partnering with realtors. Like, who are those first time sellers where we can call them up? And he even gave a script like, hey, how would you like to, like he said, before calling, make sure you know their value, make sure you know their down payment. So you could talk about, hey, you've had a 300% return on investment. And then how would you like to expand and grow your net worth even faster? And then he was using MortgageCoach, and he shared a few examples of how now he's able to present to that first time home seller, like, now is a great time to get in the market. And he showed, look, we could continue to increase your net worth with real estate. And in some cases, you can take some chips off the table. You can re-enter the market, get the lifestyle you want, increase your return on investment, and be strategic. And so I was just thinking, like, first time sellers, this is the year to lean into first time home sellers. What do you think?
I agree totally. I agree totally. Actually, Stu made that point this morning on the weekly roadmap, Stu Stewart, that originators have a tendency not to focus on sellers through their real estate partners that are referral partners and working with the real estate agents' listings, right? And thinking about strategies for the agent to help sell the house, strategies for the seller to help think about how to make themselves more attractive in the market that might improve their return. And so you and I talk about this all the time. I mean, everybody who's being successful in the origination side of the business are likely working their ass off, right? I mean, there is no easy button out there, period. And folks like Jeremy and others, that's why I love having them. I gave him a much longer period on 2 weeks ago on the weekly roadmap, and his very specific process, tactics, protocol, boom, 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 wash, rinse, repeat, over and over and over and over. And then, he commented in my session that, frustrates him that, he has people wrapped around him in his branch and in his region that see what he does. He shares everything. and then they don't execute, and then they, bitch about the darkness as opposed to lighting a match, meaning, just go figure out what he's doing and do more of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you're going to be at the Modern Mortgage Summit next week, right? You bought a ticket. You're going to be there.
Bought a ticket. I have to tell you, I'm not yet sure I'm going to be there. I think so, but I'll loop back. If not, I'll be on virtually. I can assure you that.
All right. Well, you better be there.
Okay.
And if not, like, let's figure out who we could give that ticket to,
Yeah.
and hope to see you. But where I was going with that, guys, is there's
By the way, it's not about ducking you. I may have a client conflict, but
no,
that's,
I get
I'll
it.
come
I
right
get it.
back to you today, yeah, and confirm.
But it's never been more clear in the path to being successful than it is right now. And I mean, look, we've got Jeremy Forciers, we've got Shayla Giffords, we've got all these top performing people that are arguing. We both have had Sean Benosian on our channel, and they're telling you what they're doing
Ow,
and,
right.
and how they're doing it. So I would just really push all the executives. The only thing I'm not going to challenge you, Brian, because I do agree we need more data people. But you know who else you need? You need more trainers and
Oh, I agree
coaches
with that, by the way. Yeah,
and
look, I
people.
think the middle
People,
managers who are helping make their sales force better, stronger, more thoughtful, strategic, holding them accountable, doing those kinds of things are worth their weight in gold. Well, let me not be, confusing in my commentary. I think folks who are middle managers and believe that somehow they're owed something because of their tenure in the mortgage business, I think those are T-Rex in search of a tar pit.
yeah, agreed. Like we need to, and I do believe that the industry has changed. Like I'm gonna read something. I want to see if you have any edits to it, Brian. This is, I think I did this. I either posted this on LinkedIn or I'm gonna post it. I'm pretty sure I already posted it. But the future of the mortgage industry won't be defined by the lowest interest rate, fastest closing, or the largest marketing budget. It'll be won by lenders who control the most data and are able to consistently deliver long-term value to the consumer with that data. These lenders will provide timely, actionable advice that helps borrowers save money, optimize debt, optimize equity, and accelerate wealth building. Like, by the way, guys, that fits right into the strategy. And success will come to those who can scale by transforming loan officers into data-driven mortgage coaches equipped with insights, predictive analytics to guide their borrowers through every step of the homeownership journey to achieve financial freedom. You agree with
I would
that?
add,
Any
I would
edits to
add,
that?
I think I love it. I would add two edits very quickly. Every place where you said borrower, right, relative to the originator and the borrower, I would add and their referral partners,
Ah, I
right?
like
Because
that.
I think that same data-driven strategy is about, look, if I knew that if I was an originator today and Dave Savage was a great realtor here in Orange County and I was calling on you, before I ever made a call to you, before I ever reached out on social media, I would know everything about you. I would know who you're doing business with. I know what kind of loan size you have. I know what kind of, I could interpret from that what kind of products you're probably needing. Are you doing a lot of investment properties or not? Where's your volume flowing? Where's it actually closing versus where you thought it was going to close? I know everything about you so that when I showed up, I'd have that data and have solutions for how I made your life easier, better, and made you more successful. And through that, I would want to then tag on and be able to be part of that success. So I don't think it's just borrower or consumer. I think it's also referral partner, be it real estate, be it, builder, be it whatever the case may be, in terms of a referral
Financial
partner.
planner. I mean,
Yeah, wherever you're getting
financial
your
planner,
volume from,
advisor. Yeah, you need
what
to be
do you
value.
know
You need
about?
to use data and valuable advice because closing a loan on time are just table stakes. Having a good price is a table stake. Uh, and when you really look at Rocket's success, a great deal of Rocket's success is the training. Like they
Yeah,
train their people and they have a management layer that is helping people deliver a best
sales
practice
managers,
experience.
true sales managers in
Yeah,
that.
true sales managers that are managing both performance and skill. Like they're making sure people have
Can
the
you make one
skill.
other comment on that, Dave?
Yeah, go
I
for
say
it.
this all the time. I've said it here before too. Also, you don't want to try to be a junior Birdman version of Rocket,
No.
right? Where you send out a link and you hope for the best and whatever they give a rate quote. Because guess what? Because of all that you just described, they're better at it than you are. So how do you differentiate, can't speak here today, versus Rocket? A lot of ways to do that and make yourself more valuable.
So, a minute ago, you mentioned one of the things was data, making sure that you're calling on the right realtors. And I do believe, guys, that is a prolific um, differentiator. I do not believe that the average LOs are really making sure that who they're calling on, where they're spending their time, are high performing loan officers, or excuse me, high performing real estate agents, or just closing business. You know, like let's not even worry about high performing. Are they actually helping eight-ish borrowers or buyers annually? If someone is helping zero or three, like even if you are successful, what are you going to do with that? If someone's closing eight or more, like we got something to work with. And actually, in my mastermind today with Steve Kiles, he called that out early on as a best practice, and all the top coaches talk about
Yeah.
that. You mentioned
Simple.
you had six or five. What are some of the other things that you're advising your clients?
You mind if I pull up a slide that I'm actually ready to pull up?
Come bring it. Always.
All
You
right.
never need to ask me if you can pull up a slide. And
Well,
by the way, are you okay with sharing any of those slides with the group?
I'll give you the whole deck from
Okay,
what I,
Brian's gonna give you the deck. It'll be
yeah,
in our Facebook group, Trust Engine Mastermind. I'll put a date on
got the
it
wrong one.
so you guys know what it is. All right,
Well,
I saw it almost.
yeah, yeah. I just,
That was the wrong slide, everybody.
yeah.
And hey, if you are on um, either Facebook, social media, YouTube, if you've got a question for Brian, we do this every month. If there's things that you want to make sure Brian and I cover in these weekly updates, share those in comments, please.
Can
Okay.
you see this, Dave?
Yeah, we see based on Ryan's thoughts. Here's a few
Yeah, so
thoughts.
Ryan McKeveny was from Zelman Associates. He had done, it's the front part of this deck. And so I'll give you the whole deck and you can put it out to your team, however you want to
Thank
do this.
you. Appreciate that.
Okay. And so I interviewed Ryan. We went through a bunch of thoughts, right? And then I said, all right, based on that, because here was my general premise. Ryan was the third economic speaker, right, in a row to the audience. And the audience was predominantly CEOs, COOs, CFOs of mortgage and real estate companies that were in attendance. So this is not driven to an originator, but you'll get the point. So what I basically said, all right, you've got all this stack of data, all really great data, by the way. Now the question I have for everybody is, what do you do? What do you do tomorrow morning, right? What's the strategy tomorrow morning? So for those of you in a mortgage sales business, I already talked about this. Do you know who your salespeople are calling on for purchase leads, and more importantly, why they're calling them? That's the point we just covered. And to your point, you want to make more money in the mortgage business, you can call on people in real estate, or you can call on people who sell real estate. Really important difference, right? Want to make more money in the mortgage business? See if you recognize this line. As a company or as an originator, convert more of the leads you already have with a defined, trained, and measured process. Focus. That's Forcier right there, right? That's Jeremy Forcier. That's Shant, right? In spades, using a mortgage coach tool. And if you don't have a mortgage coach tool, use some process, right? It can't be the random blind squirrel finds an occasional nut approach to selling. Do you have a sufficiently granular analysis of your business on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to measure the results against expectations in time to make mid-course adjustments? Do you know if you're going down the right path? Do you know where you're going? Do you have your goals? Are you self-accountable? Are you accountable to others? Focus. And you hear it from Shantz and the Jeremys and the Joe Masseys of the world. Analysis of their own business. They see themselves as the CEO of their own company, of their own work, and they have the analytics down to the gnats behind to know exactly what their conversion rate is, how they're working their mom, right? Their mortgage book of business, right, through their process. This is really driven to senior management, but I think also branch managers. Most people have focused on expense control during this downturn. I think that's correct. Most have not sufficiently focused on revenue margin management with sufficiently granular analysis and reporting and a proper system such as Poly. I misspelled Poly. It should be two L's. You can improve your bottom line by 5 to 25 basis points. I guarantee it. Call me. And what I mean by that is Last quarter that's been reported, the average mortgage company made 17 or 18 basis points of profit. If you improve your revenue by 5 basis points, that's like a 16th of a point, right? You can improve your profit by 30%. It takes a system. Last but not least, I continue to believe that 25 will continue to be a very difficult year in real estate and mortgage. I have been very bearish since March of 22. However, I've concluded that we will likely see a recession in the next 18 months. And if we are, we're going to see a collapse in interest rates. What are you doing to prepare? What are you doing to prepare for that collapse in interest rates so that you don't go through the same process we went through in 20 and 21? That was my message then. It was my message in the podcast. And these are, obviously I could give you 15 bullet points, but these are the big 5 in my view, Dave.
Well, first of all, this is incredible. Yeah, thank you for sharing these slides.
And I'll send the deck over to you so you can put it out
and
there.
do you know I can't remember the person's name that presented this, but do you know Ryan? Do you know Ryan personally?
I do very well. Yeah, I've presented with him in the past. I could flip this up and show you the rest of his slides, but it's way too much data and be maybe boring.
Yeah. Well, if you could stop sharing, if you don't mind,
Yep.
but I would love an introduction to him. I would love to interview him and
Yeah, absolutely.
track that.
Absolutely.
And by the way, every manager and executive listening to this, that comment about what does 5 basis points mean? Um, I have so much evidence, case studies, real world case studies, countless, that if you could just get your loan officers to go from fee worksheet, here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close, a commodity experience to a strategic experience. Like, hey, this is what your equity will look like in 5 years. This is ways to save money and pick the right loan right now. Date the rate, marry in the house. Like, hey, this is what getting your loan today looks like. And when rates come down, not if rates come down, when they come down, look what your payment will look like. Like by being strategic, it saves a lot more than 5 basis points. The loan officers that are strategic like that, and I know who they are because they use MortgageCoach, they're like 10 basis points, 15 basis points, 20. Like I've got companies that have done analysis who's delivering advice with price, and they're a whole lot more than 5 basis points more profitable. So I just
No
want to
doubt.
tell you, and that's one touch point, guys. So like you are sitting on countless ways to get an extra 5 basis points. You just need to implement and execute.
Can I just translate that? I just said before the average loan amount in Q4 was 398,000. 5 basis points on 398,000 is $199. The question becomes, can you pick up an extra $199 either in your fees, in your price exceptions, in the reduction of the number of wasted credit bureaus that you spend on customers that are never going to get the transaction done? Could you convert one more loan? Could you do, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get to 199 bucks, and it's not the end of the world. I see originators all the time using price exceptions by quarter, meaning, hey, Dave, my boss, can I get a 25 basis point price exception? Or can I get a 75 basis point price exception? Not recognizing that what you really need is a 72 basis point price exception, because you ask the customer, if I can beat the quote from my competitor by $1, would you do business with me? Yes. Okay, let's go get that instead of throwing on an extra 25 basis points of price exception just so I can maybe, overwhelm the consumer and just gave the money away. And I didn't have to.
Yeah. Well, by the way, every lender, by just doing best practice price concession negotiation, I mean, there are about 5 steps that are very simple that every loan officer in America could do. We first you do this. And one of those is don't look at the monthly difference. Look at the difference. What is that worth over a year? Because most consumers do not expect to keep the loan for more than a year or 2 years right now. So if you show them like, hey, this is what the competition has, this is what I have, what is the total cost over a year? And now you don't have to meet them usually. What I'm hearing from the loan officers and the branch managers that I've trained is that if you can just get within a couple $1,000s over the course of a year, they'll stay with you. But now let's say it's 5,000, like the cost of your loan versus your competition is 5,000. We might have to do some discounting, but instead of discounting by an eighth, a quarter, 3/8, very expensive. What if I could lower the cost by $2,000? And now you're giving less concessions, you're giving smaller concessions. So for all the managers, think about concession negotiation best practices and do some training around it. Um, so Brian, before we run out of time, what are any other takeaways from the Housing Wire event? I really wanted to be there, but I had a conflict.
Um,
Anything else we should know?
yeah, look, I had two sessions that I couldn't sit in because I was recording the podcast with Housing Wire. I missed the regulatory one with Bill from the MBA, who came in and talked about some of the stuff that's going on. But look, I think, again, a lot of the data was a little repetitive to the point of taking different vectors. That's suggesting that the market's going to continue to be somewhat difficult this year, right, in the process, and kind of takeaways from that. I think another big takeaway was the strength of the builder segment. Ryan talked about it in our talk. Several others came on. CoreLogic had data around newly constructed homes and the power that the home builders have. And the general point being is that if home building or home builders are not part of your marketing strategy, you're missing, builders are now a much more significant percentage of the overall purchase market than they historically have been. Part of that is because this is like boom times for home builders. If you can build it, they will come. And the general theory as well, so-and-so has, an in-house mortgage company. There's no in-house mortgage company that's doing more than 80 or 82% capture rate on the builder business, which means that these huge builders that are doing 20,000 homes a year and their in-house operation has an 80% capture, guess what? It's 20% of 20,000. There's an opportunity. Guild has a big region down in the Southeast that has made a killing, doing a couple of $1 billion a year in home builder business, being the second lender for some of the biggest home builders in the country. So again, do you know what your strategy is? Do you know what products are using? Do you know what they need? What's that effort? What's the opportunity? One Trust Home Loan has a guy that here in Southern Cal that does it with the builders as a second lender in many cases, went from 0 to 40 million a year in a very short period of time with a defined approach to home builders. So, and you talk about this all the time, Dave, which is finding those niches and opportunizing the niches using data, strategy, products, some of the products you guys have. That's being granular. That's not, geez, is the Fed going to cut? I don't know. I don't know. I think we're going to see a recession. I'll say something that sounds a little political, and I don't mean it to be. I think the administration is trying to push us either into a recession or recession-like environment, which will do two things. It'll bring food and commodity prices down. It'll likely bring oil prices down, all good for inflation, and it'll likely bring rates down. I think in that, 1 million people could lose their jobs and unemployment will go up. But, weirdly enough, in our mortgage business, I've told my kids this early on, dad's in a business where we pray for bad economic news because typically rates are lower and mortgage people do better. All right. In that kind of an environment. It's a perverse thing. I don't wish it on anybody, but you saw jobless claims jump way up this week, 242,000. You nuke another 200,000 government employees, you're going to see jobless claims go up. You're going to see the unemployment number maybe next Friday get impacted.
Yeah, no, agreed. And just to validate your builder strategy, I interviewed a $100 million producer, Stephanie Johnston, out of Dallas, Texas. And in 2013, or excuse me, not 2023, 2023, she did 70 million. Now she's someone who's done 100 million, and she's like, I am going to do 100 million in 2024. And what she decided she needed to do is she needed to add a builder pillar. And
Oh,
so she
right.
leveraged her database because she's really good with her database. She leveraged her real estate relationships because she has a great network. And she came up with a pretty unique strategy to get builders. She started this 3 months. She started in the second quarter of 2023. Guys, she hit 100 million in 2024, so a difficult year. She went up. She did 30 million in business builders. She secured 6 builders to do business with, and she did it all last year. And so be a you don't just have to be a builder specialist. There are ways that you can get builder business in this market. I'll put a link to that interview down below. And I just can't recommend enough. Your database needs to be your number one priority. Your being valuable to your strategic partnerships, which realtors are still the alpha partner, but builders have never been more valuable. And then I do believe you should have some CPAs and financial planners. Do you have strategic partnerships? You need to be broad, but your database is the number one priority. Brian, anything to
I was
say?
going to just add two thoughts to the builder side because I've done a lot of work with builders. I just helped two home builders buy mortgage companies. Okay. And so I can give you this data real time by people who are living it every day. About 82 or 3% of home builder sales are co-broked with a realtor,
Yeah, right.
right?
That's by
So
the
you
way,
need to
that was
find,
part of our angle.
right. So you need to know in your realtor base who are bringing customers to home builders and ride that train and pick up the relationship on the other side. So that's number one. Here's the amazing part to me, and this has always just made my head explode. Most home builders, any production home builder, between 9 and 15% of their sales site traffic, they convert to a sale. The other 85 to 90% of people coming across a home builder's platform that if you have a relationship, you're likely pre-qualifying, do not buy a home from that home builder. You know what the home builders do with those leads? Nothing. They don't monetize them. They don't sell them. They don't do anything. But if you just assume that, let's just say 50% of people that show up on a home builder sales site just want to see what new appliances and paint colors look like, they're not really an interested home buyer. The other portion are and are going to buy a home. So if you have that relationship with the home builder, that home builder is likely to convert 10 to 15% to a sale. The other 85 to 90% of that foot traffic that you pre-qualified is likely to buy a home. At least half are likely to buy a home, either from that home builder, another home builder, or they're going to go out and buy an existing house from one of your realtors. And it's a lead that you could bring to your realtor, your best referral sources, and help convert them and help make them money while you make money. And so the builder business is, even these large players that have these big in-house mortgage companies, they leave those leads on the floor.
Yeah,
And it
no,
just,
there's so much opportunity in that, and I'm recommending to everyone that follows like you need to have more than just one pillar of referral partners, and just about everybody who's got. By the way, you need good processes. You have to be a complete pro. Stephanie walked through the process and how she gets builders to go like, oh wow, you're doing something different. You are not just pre-qualifying my buyers. They see her as someone that's a conversion partner. You're going to help people convert. And again, she's a great mortgage coach. She's done thousands of mortgage coach TCAs. So Brian, for anyone that wants to learn more about the weekly roadmap, they want to follow you more. What are the best places to follow you? What's the way to get signed
we'll
up?
make sure you have a link. You can follow in my LinkedIn, Brian Hale, and or mortgage advisory partners. We have two LinkedIn sites. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on all of the suspected social media sites. But you can also go to my website, mortgageap.com, which is the mortgage advisory partners that you can see behind me. And on there are all the links to subscribe. The weekly roadmap will continue to be free until March 31, and then we'll go to a subscription service. We have about just short of 700 subscribers today. Every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, if you go up on my LinkedIn, you can get a link. You can see the link to today's call as well. But if you're a subscriber, you get a weekly newsletter every Friday. You get full access to our community. You get every past speaker we've ever had. You get the new speakers, and we have an app on the Apple Store, Weekly Roadmap. One word, Weekly Roadmap on the Apple App Store and or the Google Store. Best way to do it.
All right. Well, appreciate you. I hope I see you next Thursday. Clayton Collins is coming. He'll be there with a couple of Housing Wire
Great.
folks and some of America's most successful mortgage professionals. And we've got Kyle Whistle, who is the number one EXP agent in the world. He will be one of the speakers. We have Ken DeLeon, did $1 billion in real estate business last year, was the number one buyer agent in the country. He pretty much owns the Silicon Valley and that market. did over a billion. So we've got 4 or 5 incredible real estate leaders. And then we have 10 mortgage professionals that are going to be delivering 15-minute keynotes. So it's going to be TED Talk style. They all got to pick their topic. I asked them, like, what is your message? Like, assume you're going to be on this audience. There's going to be thousands of people watching it virtually. There'll be 60 people in the room, and probably everyone in the company that you work for. They're all prolific leaders. What do you want to share to the market right now? So they pick their topic, and they're going to be delivering amazing keynotes. So hope to see you there. I'll put a link down below.
I'll
Brian,
be there. I'll confirm today.
all right, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you, brother. Until next month, remember, guys, if you have questions for Brian and I, put those in chat down below. Give this a like, share this with your mortgage friends, share this with your leadership team, and appreciate everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Dave.